Welcome back everyone. Let's go ahead and talk about none other than the 6th generation iPad, the iPad 9.7 inch from 2018. Now let's see how this bad boy holds up in 2021. Now first of all, what I can tell you is that I think this iPad is still a pretty decent iPad in a couple of different areas. And I think for the most part, like if you're going to go and buy an iPad, this one for sure is a solid pickup, 100% fact. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done for sure. Now if you want to pick up this iPad and maybe some other iPads I'd recommend this year, links will be down in the description. You can pick them up from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now starting off with the fronts, the iPad 6th generation had that 9.7 inch IPS panel on the front, and like I stated, man, these iPads, no matter how much bezel they have on them or whatever, the panel themselves are actually pretty good and they have a super high resolution. Now there is, I think, a little bit of a gap between the actual panel and the glass up front, but I'm not really freaking out about it too much, especially considering the price tag of these iPads, so I think it's totally okay for the time being. You have Touch ID on the front, a front-facing camera as well, and a little bit of bezel, but as I just stated, it really isn't too big of a deal even for me. Like I don't really care about it too much, to be honest. So in terms of the front, I say it's still good looking, especially for the price tag. On the bottom, you have the lightning port, you have a headphone jack on this, specific device as well, and you have Apple Pencil support for the 1st generation. So what the Apple Pencil is, I'm sure you all know, it's like a stylus. It's kind of like the S Pen on Androids, and it basically brings a lot more functionality to your device, which is really awesome. So you can go ahead and just plug this thing on the bottom of your port and pretty much move on with your day, and I really do like that. So it's really awesome. I wish it supported Apple Pencil too, because I really don't like Apple Pencil 1 that much, but it gets the job done for sure. And on the back, the aluminum build as well, with that single camera setup. And as I said before, I mean, these iPads, the number one best-selling thing about these specific iPads that I love is that they all feel so extremely premium. They're all so smooth and they hold up extremely well throughout time. They may not have like the craziest features, they may not have expandable storage like memory cards or anything, but they do hold up extremely well. And that is the number one reason why I love my iPads. I mean, I have the iPad Pro 3rd generation, which isn't even that old, but I have like my iPad like 5th generation, an iPad Air 2, and iPad Mini 4. These iPads hold up extremely well, and that's something I love about these iPads. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up in terms of the outside. Now we'll go ahead and hit on the cameras. It's really not like that crazy of a deal though, because most people don't really use their cameras on their iPads all that much anyway, but this thing has a single 8 megapixel camera on the back and a 1.2 megapixel front facing camera. And what I can tell you about this camera setup is that, on the back, I kind of, analogize it, whatever it's called. I kind of just compare it to the iPhone 6 camera. It's pretty much like an iPhone 6 camera on the back of this thing, so keep that in mind. I mean, it's definitely not gonna like knock anybody's socks off, but it's gonna get the job done. And I think if you were somebody who like just wants to do like Zoom calls, FaceTime calls, Google Meets, the back camera is gonna be fine, but the front camera is going to be fine as well. If you're trying to do things like film YouTube videos and like that kind of stuff, it's going to be a totally different situation. That's going to be totally different. But if you're somebody who just wants to go ahead and somewhat, you kind of want to just go ahead and film some videos and you want to go do some Zoom calls, or you're not expecting to do anything crazy with the camera, I think you're going to be okay. I think that's where this camera setup kind of excels in. And I think, for basic tasks, really any camera will do fine. But like I said, if you're trying to go and film like kind of even higher intensive videos, or you're trying to go and like, become a YouTuber straight from your iPad, is probably not going to be that great a quality, but I think it's a decent start, to be honest. So in terms of the camera setup, it's not horrible by any means. Like I think it's a pretty decent setup, but it just depends what you want to do with it. If you're just doing FaceTime calls and stuff, it's great. If you're trying to take it up a notch, it may lead you to some problems and you may want to upgrade sooner than later. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up there. Now hitting on, I still think probably the two of the best things and one of the biggest reasons why I'd recommend this bad boy is the software and the battery life. So first of all, with the software, this iPad software is still actually pretty current. It's on iPadOS 14, but very soon we are going to be in a situation where it's going to be getting iPadOS 15. And I truly do think the iPad, the chipset that's inside of this specific iPad is going to be one of those chipsets that's probably going to end up getting an extra year of support. And the reason I say this is because pretty much so many devices have this specific D810 Fusion chip. It has so many devices with this chipset. We have some iPad Pros, we have an iPod Touch, we have an iPhone 7s. Like there's so many devices that have this chipset inside of it. So it makes sense why Apple would continue to support it. So software wise, you're set from now until me recording this video until at least the end of iPadOS 15. So this looks like from now, so I'm in 2021 recording this in March, this is going to be done like at the very earliest and next year in like June. So you have a full year of software support. And even then, I think it's going to go on even further, at least like in security updates and stuff. So you're going to be set for the software. Like this thing is not going to be outdated in software anytime soon. So that's a pretty big asset for it. Now, if you're expecting to have like the craziest features on this thing and like the 120 hertz and all that stuff, that's kind of different. That's not really software. You may want to go wait a minute or two for that then and pick up the most expensive iPad Pro. But for the basic features, I mean, I'll tell you, for almost every single thing that I do like on an iPad Pro, 4th gen or whatever, I can do on this iPad. Like it's not a big deal. The software is still really great on this thing. So in terms of software, thumbs up for sure. But the battery life on this iPad is still super great as well. You have an 8,827 mAh battery in this thing, and that is a really good sized battery. I mean, it's not small by any means. It'll last you a very long time, and that's the best thing. It's not like a crazy super power hungry iPad either, so it's gonna do you just fine ultimately, which is a really awesome thing about this iPad for sure. So the battery life and the software are two of the main reasons why I would probably recommend, at least like picking up this thing in 2021 for sure. Now moving on and ending it off with the performance, this device, like I said before, has that Apple A10 Fusion chip inside of it with 2 gigabytes of RAM. Now, it's not really like a crazy amount of RAM in this thing, but as I said before, for a basic set of iPad, you're probably going to be okay for the most part. It's not going to, like I said, it's not going to be insanely like a crazy performing iPad, but I would say it's kind of like an iPhone 7. It almost is exactly like an iPhone 7. It has the same chipset and the same RAM. So in that standpoint, you're probably going to be okay. For lighter, type of tasks, if you're just if you're a student, for example, and you just want to fill out a bunch of Google documents and you just kind of want to go and do that kind of stuff, highlight papers, write out stuff, submit stuff, I think you're going to be fine, like this iPad's going to be perfectly fine for that. And even like for a kind of more heavier intensive things, if you're trying to go and, do maybe like some light video editing, some light photo editing here and there, like, editing some TikToks you want to post on, some other places, some light gaming, this iPad is going to kill it as well. This iPad is going to be really, really good for that. And I found that when you take it up a notch above that, the top tier, super heavy intensive gaming, video editing, like with super high resolutions, I think this iPad is fine there too. I have found some glitching though, so it'll open everything up. It'll be perfectly fine. It is still completely playable, but there are going to be noticeable more glitchy frames off something like an iPad, 6th generation than on something like an iPad 8th generation, for example. So those are really one of the main differences beyond the software increase and all that stuff. But I'll still tell you, the iPad 6th generation is a pretty good performing iPad, and if I had to use it, I would be perfectly fine. I don't think I would complain about it too much. So in terms of that pretty much covers up the performance segment. And to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and pick up an iPad 6th generation in 2021? Well, as I stated before, this is pretty much what I'll tell you. I think the iPad 6th generation is completely worth it in 2021. I think this iPad has a lot of capability still. It's not old. I mean, it's not that old of an iPad. This thing just came out not even 3 years ago, and it still has so much functionality. I think maybe like the only thing I would complain about for the most part is actually probably like the Apple Pencil 1 support. I think I wish it supported Apple Pencil 2. There's really nothing we can do about it, but it would have been nice had this thing supported that. But still, at least it has Apple Pencil 1 support. I think that's more of a pro than a con. On top of that, the screen resolution is still pretty nice for the most part. You're still getting really good battery life from this iPad as well. So that's just another W. You're getting an okay front camera and an okay back camera, but overall, gets the job done for sure. Still really decent performance, and you're still getting support for at least like a couple more years as well, at least. So I'll tell you for sure, this iPad is still worth it, and if you can get it for a decent price, I would say go for it. If you can go up to something like the iPad 7th generation, or better yet, an iPad 8th generation, those iPads are going to give you a much better experience. If you have a little bit more money, get the iPad Air 4, but I will still tell you this iPad is still a killer iPad in 2021. So that pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.